Hey, welcome to our podcast, Between Sundays. I'm excited that you've tuned in to hear a little bit more about what's happening between Sundays here at our church. I am joined with Michelle Richardson, my wife. I call her wife, but we have the chance to kind of introduce her and share a little bit about herself. And then we're going to discuss a little bit about sabbatical rest and some of those things. So, hey, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me today.
Yeah, so Michelle, share a little bit about your life for what people may not know.
I'm married to you. Some people might not know that. Mom to Sophia and Ren, which is probably how most people know me. They're the more popular ones of the family. God called us here about 4 years ago, just serving ministry with you. I'm a speech therapist as well. My favorite job is probably doing ministry with you and hanging out with the girls, though.
Nice. And speech therapist, does that mean you just work with people that talk strange or can't talk, or is there more to your job than just actual words coming out of your mouth?
Sure. I like to say we work from the neck up. So we do a lot of swallowing, help people to swallow, help babies learn how to eat. We work anywhere from birth to 105 years old. Speech, cognition, swallowing, all those things. So
I had to ask because when we first started dating and like, I'm going to be a speech therapist, I was like, I don't know what that means. You just help people talk. And I was woefully under thought about the whole process. So, but we're going to talk a little bit about sabbatical rest. Now, in many churches, the idea of pastoral staff gaining a sabbatical is almost unthinkable, uncommon, maybe thought unnecessary in the world of ministry. And so here at our church, every year, all of our pastors, all the staff pastors, get a week for every year of service they do for planned sabbatical rest. And that's not just an extra week off. There's actually ministry investment, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I take two. And so maybe a little bit more strain and weight and responsibility in the day-to-day. A little bit harder to decompress and unplug from the ministry wrestles as lead pastor. But I'm going to just kind of start off talking a little bit about what a sabbatical is. And so a lot of people say you get 2 weeks off in July to just have extra vacation time. But I don't think that has ever been the case. Have you ever seen me just take 2 weeks off and sitting still in isolation, streaming Netflix?
I don't think your brain would allow you to do that. No.
And so I plan sabbatical rest, meaning I set up and arrange places to go, to learn, to sit with other pastors, to ask questions, to be invested into. I typically outline a project. In years past, I've written a copious amounts of work or read through things that I've been put off for a long time. This year, I'm looking for the chance and opportunity to read from cover to cover through the Bible over that time and journal and just reflect. But it is a planned 2 weeks of intentional investment and reflection. And I know we've talked a lot about it. So what would you contribute into that discussion that I have not said as a descriptive of sabbatical rest?
Yeah, I would say the things that I've seen you do, I can't talk for all pastors, but things I've seen you do during sabbatical are very intentional. I see you in a lot of intentional reflection about, how has the ministry been going? How are you doing ministry? A lot of intentional prayer of, Lord, am I leading in the way that you've called me to lead this church? Fleshing out any areas or asking the Lord, have I been leading in such a way that builds my kingdom or your kingdom? And so a lot of that intentional time just to reflect on the ministry for that year, where our church is headed for the next year, kind of a way to detox your brain in a sense of all of the things swirling as far as leadership and shepherding go. Just a way to kind of clear your head and make sure that you're thinking clearly for, the next year of ministry.
Yeah, I think when you kind of walk through the process, last year, I actually flew out to Phoenix, spent some time with a church planner, a good friend of mine, talking through the ministry of church planning, talking through how he and his family is doing, what are some of the rigors and the wrestles of church planning, and really kind of downloaded, chronicled that information wrote about some of that information in hopes in the future that when we get ready to plant a church, I can take what I learned through those days, weeks there, to be able to process and think through how can I best serve a church planter coming out of our church, and how can I best minister to them, or how can our church better serve and support them. What are the best ways to do some of that stuff, which happens in general conversation, but every now and then the work of ministry, either the visitation or the teaching prep, which spends a good portion of my time, or the leadership checking in on staff and helping them dream and have care for their future and how they're doing ministry, kind of weeds out some longer amounts of time that I need to dream and reflect and plan and think through things, as well as the things you shared, like I want to know, am I doing what God's called me to do? Am I doing it well? Are there areas of sin in my life that I need to be aware of? Are there things that in the pace of ministry that can kind of be forgotten or overlooked? And so planned intentional time away, I'm able to do that. But I think it's also kind of a perk, at least in our ministry context, to have, other lay elders and paid elders to ensure that everything doesn't fall apart when I leave. So I think in the back of my mind, I'm like, you know what? There's great godly men that are still leading and caring for the church, which frees me up in so many ways to go, I don't have to do everything. But here's the rub, and I think you could experience this too. You're a speech therapist. You don't get an extra 2 weeks of sabbatical leave from your therapy. Why is it that a pastor should gain an extra 2 weeks of intentional investment and not you or the bricklayer or the plumber or what other ministry vocation even that doesn't supply that kind of intentional rest?
Sure. Well, and I think working in a secular field, but also getting a firsthand look at what a pastor does and the weight that you carry. I think any good shepherd of a church is shepherding, is leading their church. And I see you continually not only investing in all of the members of our church, but you walk alongside every tragedy, every milestone, every hardship a family's facing, marital issues. You're there listening and counseling and guiding and praying, and you're not just carrying that weight, from 9 to 5. You're carrying that weight at home too. And so just most of us walk through maybe a friend or two, maybe a family member or two. We walk through a tragedy with them or experience one of our own, but that's a daily thing for you. To walk alongside those people and because you're shepherding them, you love them with intensity. And so you're carrying that burden with them and constantly enduring those things. And so that alongside with, all of the leadership and decisions, your brain, and I'm speaking for you personally, I don't know other pastors, your brain is going 100 miles a minute thinking about the church and your church family and the individuals and praying for them. And it's just it's a constant weight, a good weight, but a heavy weight that doesn't really ever lighten. That's not something I experience. I experience it secondhand because I hear about it at home, and my role is to support you and encourage you and pray for you, or just be an ear. So I hear about those things, but I'm not experiencing those as deeply as you are. I don't carry that weight. So I think I'm sure there's many, many other differences, but that's something where if a pastor doesn't take an intentional time of rest from all of those things swirling in his mind and on his heart, then it's just a big burden to carry with no rest.
Sure. Yeah. And I would add on to that, even throughout the year, if we go on a vacation, say in October or something, I'm not really not thinking about work or not planning to work. I mean, I'm sure more times than not, I'm sermon prepping early in the morning before people wake up, or pulling away for a few hours here to make a few phone calls or those types of things. So even in those vacation weeks, you don't actually get the chance to let go of things fully. and be fully in the moment at all times. And maybe other pastors can. I can't speak for the experiences other guys have in the role of ministry, but for me, it's hard to kind of shut down the brain with thinking in a week's time. There's so many things that I'm coming back to, so to speak, that I anticipate having a decision for, or having some way to care for someone, and some kind of plan to lay out in the future. So yeah, and I I've lived and worked in the secular world. I worked a job that I got to work. I got to come home and not really think about it until I went back the next day. And there were some perks and benefits to that. Some things that every now and then I miss. Be able to kind of not think about those weights and responsibilities, but at the same time, I know many of our conversations revolve around ministry, God's word, the things of the Lord, what He's doing in our church, introspection, and things like that are happening. So,
Yeah, I would say, our my favorite vacation is typically the vacation we take at the end of your sabbatical. You take your vacation week at the end of your sabbatical, and that's my favorite because that's when myself and the girls we get all of you. You are fully in. You're not having to get away a few hours every day to work on a sermon. You've had that 2 weeks or so to kind of decompress and work through things, and your brain is there. You're fully present, and I think you do a really good job of finding good rhythms of rest throughout the year. But I can definitely tell a difference on that. That's a true vacation after you've had your sabbatical and you are fully present with us.
yeah, we like to say detox, right?
Detox.
Ministry detox, where it's just like it's all out of your system,
Right.
right? And you can finally just kind of be in the moment without thinking about what is ahead. So, which is why I placed that week of vacation after those 2 weeks. It seemed odd to go, well, you haven't been in the office. You should want to, after 2 weeks, jump right back into the office. But I find, like you said, the best thing that I can do at that point is to be present with the family. Because a good portion of that sabbatical 2 weeks, I'm not with you guys. I'm not always just there at the house and hanging out going, hey, what are you guys doing today? I'm going to another state or to another place and sleeping somewhere else, and many of those things. And so on this side, though, thinking through the rigors of ministry and the joys at the same time, what do you see as the benefits of a sabbatical rest for pastoral ministry members, pastoral leaders within the church in a more general sense? Maybe not just me, but for any of the other pastors to kind of take time to kind of walk through intentional investing, equipping, reflection.
Sure. Well, I think that, if there's not an intentional plan for rest and sabbatical, there's huge risk of burnout. And when there's burnout, there's bitterness. Even if there's not bitterness, there's certainly not the ability to give your 100% of yourself to your church. And so, we've seen pastors who haven't taken sabbaticals in years. And they did okay in their ministry, but I think that their family would have flourished more, their church would have benefited more had there been some intentional time of rest there, because that's your spiritual health, your mental health. When that is all in order, that can be a big impact on the whole church.
Sure, yeah, and I would see it in my own life. There are certain the time as we get closer and closer to July, I am like losing more and more momentum, steam. And so I need, when you take the opportunity to invest in a lot of different people, you have to see the limitations of yourself and shed your Messiah complex that you always have to be the savior.
Sure.
And you realize I need other people to also pour into my life. I need to take time to read through the word. I need to take time to do more than just the normal rhythms of life. I need to really step away from everything and get along with the Lord and reflect on some of the things that He wants to lead our church into and our family into. Well, at the same time, surrounding myself with godly men that have good relationship with me, that are willing to share some things. You're like, hey, John, you need to work on this, or you need to reflect on this, and I think that's helpful. I think for, like you said, the church and certainly ministry staff, I think most people typically don't feel my missing presence, except for in the pulpit on Sunday morning for most people, because most people aren't enduring tragedy or calling or texting day to day. Usually we have enough church members that's spread out across a few dozen. But I also say, I think some of the, like I said, benefits are many of the other responsibilities pastors jump into, they lead out of, they share, they care, they visit. I joke all the time that it's much better to get a visit from Jim Kistner than it is for me, because he actually knows medical stuff. So he's a greater benefit with when you're in the hospital.
Sure.
Because I'm just gonna be there to encourage you and pray. But you show me any kind of stats and medical vitals, and I just go, that sounds great, and then I leave. And so I think there's the responsibility that other people also do other ministry aspects, while at the same time it's good for our church and our leadership to grow in their capacities of leadership and to take on responsibilities that if I were present, I would absorb more naturally. And so I think another aspect that people don't see in the day to day. But what else? Like, what else could contribute here in the conversation of sabbatical rest and church leadership?
Well, I mean, I think you made a good point about allowing other elders and leaders to take on some of that you would naturally take on. I know when we did college ministry, you did the same thing. There was some intentional time of rest, and you would employ some of the college students to either teach on a Sunday night or lead a small group. And it was fun watching them flounder through that, myself included, for a small group or two. But it taught a lot with those who are wanting to be teachers or leaders, in the next generation. And one gave you some time off, gave you a chance to study other things while they were preparing to teach, but also just a chance to learn under someone different. And I think that was a great benefit.
Yeah, I think having the opportunity to have written extensively through sabbatical rest, prayed, certainly read things that I'd like to read. And I try to read a copious amount of time, but there's always so many things that are just be outside of my time schedule, unless I begin to sleep 2 or 3 hours a night. And I don't think I'm a vampire, so I can't make that happen yet. But I think, in dreaming and looking ahead, some of the benefits for me is 30 years from now, I'd like to still have the same vitality, energy, freshness, desire, capacity to be able to continue to minister if God so allows it. And I think, as you said, burnout and failure in ministries that happen from never taking a break, never stopping, never slowing down, never re-engaging with the Lord in long tenure amounts of time, where you say, I'm not in a hurry here. I have 3 or 4 days where I'm just going to settle in prayer and stuff. Gives you a chance to look forward to, come August 1, I'm looking forward to the year, rather than I'm looking forward to my next vacation, or I'm looking forward to the chance when I won't preach again, just to have an extra 15 hours to myself or 20 hours to myself a week. And so I think it's really helpful. I know it's hard because it doesn't seem applicable to every vocation, or maybe it should. Maybe it'd be good and helpful for people to plan in more rhythms of rest within their life. But I think for our family, and certainly for our church and for my own spiritual growth, I think it's essential to slow down and take breaks and see the ends and the barriers of my time, so that I'm a better pastor, a better husband, and a better father from having taken short, abbreviated breaks throughout the year, rather than crashing against a wall and then trying to pick up all the pieces and all the brokenness that could come from that. So I think that's been really fruitful. Any last words, anything that would cement this into time and theology, that people would view this 100 years from now?
Oh, I don't know if I can be that beneficial, but the pastors' wives and us, we get together once a month, and we were just joking the other night, and they were saying, "Are you gonna say something about how the wives should get a sabbatical as well?" And even though we do kind of get that secondhand weight from you, it's nothing like the pastors carry. And honestly, coming from a pastor's wife, we benefit from your sabbatical as well, because like you said, we're walking alongside you as you carry some of those weights, and we worry for you. We worry for our husbands. We get hurt when you get hurt. Criticism that you get comes to us, and we bear that weight too. And so to see when you can take a rest, an intentional time of rest, it does give you that vitality, like you said. What I see in you, it gives you a strength to keep going. And not that all ministry is bad, ministry is wonderful, but there are harder times. And so, me as a wife, seeing that you've taken rest and that you feel equipped and you don't feel beaten down, gives me a peace in my heart, to know, okay, everything is going okay. He's okay, so I'm okay. I think it helps the pastor's wife not to become bitter or burn out as well. It encourages us to take more rhythms of rest, as a lot of us are juggling our jobs and our children, our home, and also whatever ministries we do around the church as well. So we get burnt out too, and so I think your sabbatical encourages me to take more intentional rhythms of rest for myself, because I see you doing it, not only for your good, but for our family's good, our church's good. And so it encourages me to do the same. But I think when I've seen you come out of a sabbatical and you're encouraged, you're excited, your head is clear, you feel like you've got good direction for the next year, I feel a peace in my heart. And that's good for our family too.
Sure. Yeah. And I think I've seen this even modeled down the kids ministry area, where the workers take the summer off and new people kind of file in. And not only is it a recruiting tool, but it also gives a chance to rest and reflect. And there's a renewed sense of energy and desire when those teachers reintroduce themselves back into those same spaces, and continue to minister to those kids, and maybe with a little bit more vitality and energy and direction and clarity than they had come May versus rolling back in August. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, this year, looking for the chance to be able to journal through the Bible, and looking for opportunities to maximize alone time and quiet and prayer time, reflection. And I don't believe trying to write anything this time, just trying to maybe receive and take things in. And so looking forward to what that might look like. And thanks for taking time to chat through this. I know in front of the camera is not your favorite place to be. Most pastors' wives are more content to be behind the scenes or moving in the shadows, so to speak, of the ministry. But thanks. I think you've contributed part of the conversation that I couldn't rightly frame. And so I'm thankful for that. And so, thank you for tuning in. We're looking forward to more Between the Sundays podcast. I pray that you have a great week.